This video is in partnership with LaVivid Hair. We're doing a hair system or hair unit procedure on this mannequin here today. I want to create a haircut that's a little more modern, kind of like a shag haircut. The unit today that we're using this is the one that is a lace base and a poly base, which is really, really cool. So the lace allows for some breathability on your scalp. And then what I love about the poly base is that it helps keep it very, very secure to the head. You literally comb this straight down and it's so undetectable. Let's get right into here. It's so undetectable that it literally looks like it's your real scalp, okay, which I think is pretty awesome. First thing, what do we need to do? So by looking at this particular mannequin head, there are some stragglers, some hair that is just random hairs. You gotta shave all of those off. So you wanna just take any sort of trimmer, and what you're gonna do is you're going to shave this down to where the hair line is the thickest. Now I'm gonna just take a razor myself. I have one and I'm used to doing this, and I'm literally just getting it that much closer. This is where you need to be careful if you're not used to doing this, but if you're used to shaving your head, then this will be a piece of cake. And if you're having somebody do this for you, make sure they're not mad at you, okay? All right, so what I would suggest is if your hair is, maybe a little bit greasy or something, or you feel, just take some rubbing alcohol, put it on a towel, and just wipe this down. Make sure you get all those oils off so you got a nice clean base to work with. Next, I would suggest spraying No Sweat, which is a great spray. I'm actually sweating right now. I'm just gonna put some on me. But it's a great spray to lay on the base or the scalp to help prevent sweating, because the more you sweat, the more it's going to mix with the adhesive, and then it's just gonna make the adhesive loosen up a little bit and it won't last as long. So you wanna prevent sweating as much as possible. Next is the scalp protector, which again, all this is sold on LaVividHair.com. This is really, really essential because this is gonna act as that protective base on the scalp, which is really, really important. And I like to just shake it up a little bit, and then you simply just go in and press down a little so the product comes out, and then just work it all in the area that you're going to be applying the adhesive, all right? Let that dry first for maybe, 30 seconds to a minute. It dries relatively quickly. Last but not least, we're using the Supreme Ghost Bond, which is the adhesive that I'm going to apply to the scalp and then lay the unit over. Okay, so I just applied the Supreme Ghost Bond into the bowl, and now I'm going to start my application. And what I'm going to do is, in through here, I already could see where the hairline was. If you are doing this yourself, you could use a hair cutting comb or some sort of comb to create little notches in your scalp, which will go away. It's not gonna hurt you or anything like that. Just as a guide to see where to put the actual unit. So going in with the glue like so, you're literally just gonna start applying it all over the entire scalp where it needs to go. I like to start in the middle, work my way back, and then work towards the front. Just because in my experiences when I first started doing this, I have noticed that if I start in the front, I've applied too much, and sometimes it doesn't really work out too well because there's too much product on there, too much glue. So what I like to do is I like to just slowly take my time and work the product in as best I can without being very, very aggressive. Think of yourself as kind of painting on the hairline, right? You're painting on the hairline, and it's literally just like you're drawing. You're drawing on the scalp. And it's really, really crucial to follow this because it's really gonna save you and prevent things from getting really, really messy, to be honest with you. Traditionally, what you need to do is apply maybe, I'd say 2 to 3 coats after each one dries. So you want to let this dry for I'd say about a minute or so to 2 minutes. Go back in and apply a second, even third coat. Sometimes I've ever done 4 coats, just because you want to make sure you have a really, really solid adhesive base on the scalp. So I'm just going to continue to go over this, make sure I have everything where I want it, and then we'll come back when I'm ready to put on the unit. All right, so the adhesive is now fully dried, and it's time to put the actual unit on. Again, this process alone could take 15 or so minutes, just because you may have to go back and take your time and apply 2 or 3 more coats to it. So you have to be patient if you're a professional doing this. Again, it's something that requires patience. It's not a 1, 2, 3 job, and if you're doing this yourself, you have all the time to do this. So really take your time with it and don't rush it. So now again, it's time to put the hairline, or to put the hair on. We're gonna start right here in the hairline. So what I like to do, I'm actually gonna bring this hair down a bit, and because I need to have a better vantage point. If you're doing this yourself, you could start in the back. It really depends on you, but all right, we're ready. So I'm just gonna lay the unit right down on the hairline, and I'm stretching this out here into the corners so that I have full coverage. And there we go. Perfect. So now I'm just going to be rolling the unit back and making sure that I am stretching it a little bit so that we have really good even coverage. And last but not least, there we go. And we can press down. And now is a time where we literally just press this down on the scalp here. This is what it would look like if you're going to take a towel, literally, and lay it on your head and just pull down on the sides here so you're getting even tension. You're just really, again, trying to lock this down onto the scalp. That's the whole point of this thing, is to get it on and wear it. Beautiful. So now let's comb this through. The hairline matched up perfectly. We are good to go. And now it's time to cut the hair. Again, if you are going to wear this back, you can. It's just, keep in mind, it's extremely thick. It's very, very natural, but it's really on the thicker side. So you really have to make sure you're going to be doing a hairstyle that is going to really complement everything. So today what we're doing is we're doing a bit of a kind of a shag men's haircut, where we're going to be having a fringe, right? Something coming down towards the front. So I'm going to be cutting this whole haircut with the razor, and just because it gives me a little more texture, and it's a great tool. So if you are attempting this at home, I wouldn't. I wouldn't, period. I actually had to switch to a different razor. This is a straight razor with no guard, just because the other one was a bit dull. So this means now I have to be even more careful when cutting, because there's no guard on this. It's a straight razor. I have experience doing this, so it's, it's nothing new to me, but you do want to be very careful no matter what when using any sort of tool like this. Okay, so now we're working in through the sides and through here. So what we have to deal with, and one of the challenges we have, is we've got this long piece and we've got this gap right in through here. We've got this gap that we need to kind of fix. So what I like to do is see where this part stops and this gets longer, and that is going to be my guide. That's going to be my guide, so that I'm literally connecting the dots and filling in that void in through here, right? I'm creating a whole new shape so that it's a bit more solid now, as you can see. And then once we have that, we can go in and then piece out the entire thing in through here. But right now, we're building the foundation for the house, right? This is the foundation, which is the most important part of the entire haircut, because if this isn't right, then nothing else will be right, okay? You need to have a solid foundation. So now we can see it's much more connected and blended in through here. This hair is extremely on the thicker side, so we have plenty of options when it comes to removing that excess weight. As you can see what I did there, that helps with the razor. What are we gonna do in the front? Well, I mentioned I wanna have some sort of fringe area or bang area here to create that kind of modern or even classic shag, which usually ends up being right around in through here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a nice thin section right down the middle, right here, and this is where you need to determine where you want to have your length. With the razor, it's a bit more forgiving, but at the same time, just keep in mind that you don't want to cut this too short, all right? You don't want to cut the hair too short, because if it is too short, then you're screwed. All right, so there we have the middle piece, which I think looks perfect. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue this, but I'm going to work it on a slight angle going into the sides, right in through here. Right now, all we're doing is connecting the dots and putting the pieces of the haircut together, just like that, as you can see. Now I'm going to repeat the same thing on this side. I'm combing all this hair forward. There's the guide from before, and there's my guide from the previous section that we just cut. And there we go. So now it's a matter of just fine-tuning everything, making sure that we're balanced, making sure that we're even. We're going for even Steven look today, folks. Even Steven. And there we go. Beautiful. Now, the reason I'm doing this the way I am doing it is because, again, I am experienced in cutting this type of method. So now what we've got is we've got some texture in through here, and it's working into the length, right? It's working into the length throughout the back. And do you see, just simply because we put all that effort into cutting the foundation, this could actually end up being a really, really nice haircut, right? This could end up being a really, really nice haircut just on its own. There's my guide, bringing the hair up, and now I'm dropping it down. I'm going to take the next section, same thing on this side. We're going to comb the hair up. Let me just turn this way so I can see. Comb the hair up. There's my guide, and I'm cutting it straight across. All I'm doing is creating a blend, ladies and gentlemen. I'm creating a blend from the unit into the natural hair. And I did that all horizontally. Now I'm going to be cutting this vertically like this, because this is the part where you need to blend everything in. Because the longer hair, or the unit piece, is going to hang over everything else, and you have to blend it. If you don't blend it, it's just going to look like, it's going to look very awkward, and it's going to look like there's a big clump of hair in your head. So you need to make sure that everything is blended in properly. And the best way to do this for me is I like to go from the center to the right, and then the center to the left. Don't forget, we've got all this bottom hair down through here. So don't neglect this hair down into the bottom, because it's part of the haircut. It needs to be cut. And this has a tendency to be very, very, very heavy. You know, so all we're doing right now is literally we're just removing weight by a simple layering technique. And then we're going to go back in and use thinning techniques, right? Because, again, this particular mannequin and this hair type is very, very, very thick, very poker straight, almost like Asian hair. It's very, very coarse and thick and dense. So, you know, you have to not only cut it well from this standpoint, you also need to make sure that it's not so heavy, you know? And there's a lot of room for removing weight on Asian hair and hair types that are really, really thick like this. You don't have to worry as much. All right, so now I'm going to connect the back into the top, and I'm going to do this throughout the entire top of the head. Now that I've got that blended and connected, we can start to cut using horizontal sections. So let's comb this straight up on the head. There's my guide right there, and I'm cutting it straight across. Same thing here, combing it straight up. And there we go. So now the very, very front, let's bring this and extend this upwards. There may be a few longer hairs or so that you may need to cut or trim, which is totally fine. But the whole point of all this is to make sure that everything is really connected together, right? Now I'm cutting the corners, and the corners are the part where the hair really matches up. This is the area where you're connecting and really blending in the entire shape. And that is why doing haircuts step by step, taking your time, not rushing it, is really, really essential. Now, I feel like I haven't stopped talking for 3 hours, but I'm just trying to be very, very thorough with you guys. I know a lot of times you like to see me doing more in-depth type tutorials like this. So I apologize to the people who don't want to sit through this, but I don't apologize to people who actually want to learn and who are into this. So now I'm switching around to the other side, and I'm going to do the same thing. Notice that my body position hasn't changed. If you were doing this on a client, you would just simply spin them around so that they're facing you now. So my body position can really stay in the same spot without creating any sort of uncomfortable body position for me. It just really all comes down to this. You don't want to be cutting over the top this way because that's really not good for the back, and my back already starts to hurt when I start to do that. So instead, you want to make sure you're just really putting yourself in a very stable, comfortable position when cutting. Now I've got the thinning shears, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in throughout the ends here and really just start in the sides, because this is like really, really thick, and I'm just going to remove some of that weight. And this is a great technique if the hair is, again, super, super thick like this. And a lot of this goes by feel, right? A lot of it goes by feel. If you're running your fingers through the hair and it feels like it's extremely heavy and you feel like, oh my gosh, there's so much hair in this one area, well, don't be afraid to get rid of it. And don't be afraid to thin it out or texturize it, because yes, it can be very, very heavy. You know, it can be very, very heavy. So you need to get rid of all that weight so the hair isn't just clumped up. And also creates a nice kind of wispier piece too. All right, so I'm now just going by feel and making sure everything is blended in. Okay, so I'm just going to spray a little more of my Tidal Wave sea salt spray in the hair to give it a little bit of added texture and shape. But I think this really came out awesome. So the hair pretty much matches up perfectly. And the key essential part of this is that you would never even know that this is a hair system or a hair unit. Everything perfectly blends in together in through this. The color matches up perfectly. The style really works well, and you know, it's a very modern kind of men's shag haircut. You can sweep this all the way over this way if you want, but yeah, this is a very, very popular, trendy look here, and the key is just to make sure everything is in sync with the haircut, right? Remember, you're blending in a unit into existing hair. No matter what hair length you're dealing with, you have to make sure that all of this is in sync with the rest of the haircut of the natural hair to make it look as natural as possible, right? That's the whole key to this whole thing, is to make it look as natural as possible. So, hope you guys enjoyed this.